Good afternoon to everyone. Hope you are enjoying your day. Thank you very much to Tim for a wonderful lesson. Folks, I am going to do integers. Now we are doing integers part 2, as you can see. It is still your wonderful man, Mr. Guma MT. All right. Remember last time we said integers are whole numbers or natural numbers with their negatives. Now, what I did was I also showed the number line. This is how we represent them on the number line. Now, if you are talking about whole numbers, remember we start from 0 to infinity, but now moving all to the right. Now, we said integers are whole numbers or natural numbers with their negatives. If I'm talking about whole numbers, I start from 0 going there. I have said with their negatives. There are the negative numbers, as you can see. Or natural numbers, I can start from 1, taking natural numbers. The most important thing is the fact that they will be with their negatives. Now, one thing that I wish to stress or to point out is the fact that as we start from the right, moving to the left, the numbers are becoming smaller and smaller. Folks, I want to repeat this again. It is very important. Please capture this, please. As we move from the right to the left, all these integers are becoming smaller and smaller. Now, what do you mean, Mr. Kuma? I mean that 10 is bigger than -4, and not only bigger, very big. I'm saying to you 0 is bigger than -10, not just big, very big. Now, when we move from the left to the right there, the numbers begin to increase now. What is happening? -10 is smaller than -9. -9 is smaller than -1, and -1 is smaller than 0. My friends, look, I am giving you 2 marks now for free in every test, every exam. Please remember these 2 things. As I go there, they become smaller. As I go this side, they become bigger. Let's move on, my beautiful friends. Now, commutative, associative, and distributive property in integers. What I'm going to do, I'm going to divide, add, multiply, subtract integers. Now, there are things to remember which are very, very important when you operate with integers. What are those, say? Negative divided by a negative is actually a positive. Keep that in mind. I repeat again, when you divide a negative by a negative, you get a positive. Now, 121 divided by 11, we all know that it would give us 11. What did we learn in this example? We have learned that when we divide a negative by a negative, we get a positive, say, and we are happy about that one. Let's move on to the next one. 3 minus into 12 multiplied by -3 into plus open bracket -5 close bracket. Now, we need to determine the value of this without the use of the calculator. Remember your BODMAS. Everything that is inside the bracket must get outside of the bracket so that we play. Now, how do we do that? We do it through multiplication and division. Let's take this one outside the bracket so that we can play. When we multiply a positive, remember, if there's nothing in front of a 12, The 12 is inside the bracket. Don't count this one now. There's nothing in front of the 12 individually. That now means it is positive. I'm multiplying a positive by a negative. I would get a negative. Let's move on there. I'm multiplying 12 by 3, I would get 36. That means that positive 12 times negative 3 is actually a negative 36. You see that now, that negative 36 is still inside the bracket. Remember, I said it should go out of the bracket and that -5 so that we can be able to play wonderfully as numbers. 3 is waiting for them to leave the yards, and the yards are the brackets. Let's make them leave the yards. You see, there's a minus, minus. Mathematics does not allow that. If you have a minus and brackets, you have to multiply those two signs. I said a negative multiplied by a negative is a positive. You see, there's a plus bracket -5. We have to remove the brackets by multiplication. Plus multiplied by negative is actually a negative. Let's move on and see whether we can be able to play now. Everyone is now out of the yard, and the yard are the brackets. We can now all play. Folks, when we are having this situation, be careful now. Remember, we divided, we said we get a positive because it's a negative and a negative. We multiplied, we said we get a positive. But now, what if there's no multiplication, division? When you don't have multiplication and division, if the signs are the same, remember, in front of a 3, there's no sign, meaning that it is positive. If the signs are the same, you add the 2 and take the common sign. But if the signs are different, you subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. Now, in this case, it would be positive 3 plus positive 36, which is positive 39 because we add. Now, positive 39 minus a 5, it would be positive 34. Remember, we take the sign of the bigger number. It is positive 34. Be careful about that. Now we have determined the value of this expression without using the calculator. I said to you, you must remember something very important. Let me bring it in. That's something which is very important is this table. When you multiply positive by positive, you get a positive. When you divide a positive and a positive, you get a positive. When you multiply a negative by a negative, you get a beautiful positive. When you divide a negative by a negative, you get a beautiful positive there. When you multiply a negative by a positive, your answer would be negative. When you divide a negative by a positive, your answer is a beautiful negative. Positive multiplied by a negative, a wonderful negative. Positive divided by a negative, a wonderful negative. Please remember this when you work with integers. And also keep in mind that when we add or subtract, if the signs are the same, we add the two numbers and take the common sign. If the signs are not the same, we subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. Now, that one is a wonderful one, so let's move on. Now, when we have multiplication and division, say, what happens in integers? Let's go through this one. Determine the value of the following without using the calculators. Throw your calculators away just a moment for this one. I don't mean you should like throw them so that they break. You take it and put it aside and say to it, I would see you, my friend. I just want to work this one without you. Now, you see we have a 200 divided by a 2 inside the bracket minus into open bracket minus 125 close bracket. Now inside the yard I said, and we want to play, divided by 25 close bracket. Now everyone must come out of the bracket so that we play. How does that happen, say? It happens through division and multiplication. 200 divided by a 2 is 100. Now the 100 must jump out of the yard, out of the bracket, and wait for everyone there. We bring down that negative, bring it down, because you still have to divide these. Now you see it's a negative divided by a positive there. It means it must be negative. In 125, how many fives are there? 25s are there, I'm sorry. We have 5 25s. Now, those are going to remain inside the bracket because we have negative 5, which is following a negative sign. Let's move on and see what we are on about. You see the 100 is now out of the yard, out of the brackets. It is waiting for everyone because of division. But now look at that one. Because of this negative which is there, it is still in the yard. Now let's work it out, my friends. Negative times a negative, say you said it was a positive. Now it would be 100 plus a 5. That is 105. I hope that you will remember that every time when you are having the brackets, you remove them through division and multiplication. That is your BODMAS. Moving on to the next one, 2.2. Be careful in this one, folks. You have the brackets, 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 nothing between the brackets. I mean a plus or a minus between the bracket. That means now we are multiplying throughout there. It is actually -2 multiplied by -5 multiplied by a 4, all divided by. We have a bracket, there's a -2, we have a bracket, there's nothing between the brackets. That means we are also multiplying here. When we are multiplying throughout and multiplying throughout there, we can actually cancel the same. Now, what am I talking about? You see, we have a -2 there, we have a -2 there. I can just cancel them out. Let me fetch my pen and do that. I cancel that one out, and I cancel this one out because they are the same. I have a 4 divided by 2. I know that 2 goes how many times there? It goes twice. Now it means I would be having a 2 here. That one is gone. Now it would be negative times a positive, which is a negative. And 5 times a 2 would be a 10. Our answer is negative there because we are multiplying a negative by a positive. And please keep in mind, I would always preach this. Keep in mind that when we are having integers, we have to remember this. I spoke about it. Let's move on. Now, ascending, which is increasing. Ascending means increasing. Descending means decreasing. Now, we will ask you to arrange numbers or integers in an ascending order form or descending order form. Did I help you with that one? Yes, I told you that as we move from the left and to the right of the integers, they increase. But as we move from the right to the left of the integers, they become smaller and smaller. Now, I spoke about that. It will help you. It says, arrange the following in ascending order form. What is ascending order form? Increasing from smallest to biggest. Now, let's see. Say, you said to us, when integers are moving from the left to the right, when they are moving from the left to the right, they actually increase. That means that this one would be the smallest and this one would be the biggest. When they move from the right to the left, they decrease, sorry, meaning that this one would be bigger than this one. Now, let's look at those numbers. You see, minus 12 comes after minus 8, and minus 8 comes after minus 4. Now, when we do this in an ascending order form, that is minus 12, minus 8, minus 4, 3, and 7, that is now increasing smaller to bigger. Remember, this would give you 2 marks in your exam. Let's move on. Now, integers in real life, how do we use them? Where do we use them? When we measure temperature, we use integers. Write each of the following as an integer or integers to solve and solve them. Now, let's write this as an integer. A temperature of 5 degrees below freezing point. There is freezing point. Below freezing point, it means that it must be below 0. That would be minus 5 degrees Celsius, which is an integer. Let's move on to the next one. An island has a mountain which is 1,100 meters high. Let's see that mountain. There's the mountain. There's its height there. The surrounding ocean has the depth of 800 meters. There's 800 meters.
See at the bottom, if you move your mouse down,
there's your depth there. Now, what is the difference in the height that points upward of these two? Difference, it means we should subtract.
Okay, click on that.
Now, we start by taking the height of the mountain, 1,100 meters, minus. Now, because the depth is in the opposite direction, it would be minus 800 meters. Now we have 1,100 meters minus 800 meters. Remember what you said now. It would be 1,100. Negative times a negative is a positive, which gives us plus 800. When we add the 2, we get 1,900. Can you see that integers are actually applied in real life? Suppose that the temperature is minus 14 degrees Celsius, and it is then rising. It then rises by 5 degrees Celsius. What is the temperature now? Look at what must happen. When we go up, it becomes plus. When we go down, it becomes negative, below the 0. Now, we are saying it is rising from negative 14 degrees. It rises by 5. It goes there. It means it would be negative 14 plus a 5, because when you go up, it's a plus, which would give us negative 9 degrees Celsius. Remember, negative plus 5 would actually have to be subtracted and take the sign of the bigger number. Thank you very much, folks. There is your QR code for the quiz questions. Please, practice makes perfect. Go through this, scan it, and go through this exercise, a wonderful exercise for integers, which is the lesson for today. Thank you very much. To the next presenter, have the best time. I also enjoyed mine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guma.